All right. So, on this week's episode of Therapyology Thursday, we are speaking with Sam from Tap Into Nutrition. We had her on previously to talk about her being a registered dietitian, intuitive eating, and Tap Into Nutrition. This week, we are talking all about food-centered holidays because the holidays are right around the corner.
Yeah,
So, yeah. So,
fun.
Sam, could you reintroduce yourself just in case someone didn't watch the previous episode?
Sure. So my name is Sam. I am a registered dietitian and intuitive eating counselor and the owner of Tap Into Nutrition. We are a nutrition counseling private practice that specializes in helping people find a healthier relationship with food.
Very cool.
Mm.
Good. So, what does the holidays have to do with registered dietitian, nutrition, and intuitive eating? Like, why are we connecting the two?
Yeah, great question. And ultimately, I mean, when we talk about the holidays, what do we think of, right?
Dinners with family, the candy in our stockings if you celebrate Christmas, like
Yes.
usually food, desserts,
Yeah.
everything.
It's and that's the thing, right? It's centered around food,
Hmm.
which is so beautiful,
Hmm.
and it feels like that's kind of been stripped from us to see it in such a beautiful way because of the super diety culture that we live in. So, with the holidays coming around, really recognizing how triggering that can be for a lot of people
Hmm.
who might struggle with their relationship with food, might struggle with their relationship with their bodies, might have some stuff from childhood as it
Hmm.
relates to food and body image, and going back home or being around aunts and uncles and grandparents, maybe,
Hmm.
who might be making comments about what we're eating or might be making comments about what we're not eating,
Yeah.
how our body has changed over the last year.
Hmm.
I know for a lot of our clients, there's a lot of fear around, like, ooh, I don't know what's going to be said. I don't know how my body is going to be perceived. I don't know who's going to be watching me eat.
Yeah.
And how much that takes away from their experience of the holidays and the joy that comes with it,
I can
right?
imagine, yeah, because you're so fixated on trying to have control over all of these things in the moment and not being able to just be in the moment or having like that mindfulness, being grounded, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, what kind of trends do you see during the time of this year? So, thinking November, December, the holidays.
Yeah. So, a lot of fear around the food centered holidays, right? It feels like things are out of control,
Mhm.
out of control. Like lots of holiday parties, lots of treats at work or
Yeah.
at school. And so many of us wrap that up with lack of control
Mm.
or lack of willpower
Yes.
and this all or nothing mindset of, oh, well, I'm just going to eat whatever I want, as much as I want of it until January 1st, right?
Yes.
Because
Mhm.
new year, new me, I can shred all the weight, start a new diet. I'm going to deal with it then,
Yep.
which makes our culture do this like very all or nothing mentality with food, especially around the holidays. And what I consider like a lot of self sabotage.
Mhm.
Because when we focus so much on that all or nothing aspect, that it really takes us away from being present and in
Mm.
the moment of enjoying the outing or the party, the event, because we're so fixated on what food's here, what am I going to eat, what am I not going to eat.
Mhm.
Even like maybe earlier in the day, I'm gonna, watch what I eat for breakfast and lunch because I'm going out to dinner or I,
Yeah.
I have this holiday party and I want to save my calories for then.
Mhm.
And how destructive those cycles can really be um, in finding a healthier relationship with food and one's body.
Mm. I love that you use those very real, like thoughts and kind of things that we say to ourselves. Because I think that everybody has said that
Mhm.
before of I need to save my calories for later, or like thinking on Thanksgiving Day, right? When you're like, oh, I'm going to eat tons of food later. So I don't really
Sure.
need to eat breakfast. I don't need to eat lunch. And although that's one day out of the whole entire year, I can imagine that it does trick your brain into kind of doing that in other parts of your life too. It's almost like training yourself to think that way other times, right?
Yeah, and it leads to such poor self-efficacy.
Yes.
Like you feel terrible about yourself,
Mhm.
right? Which is so unfair
Mhm.
because those things are meant to be celebratory,
Yep.
right? Sometimes an exercise I'll do with clients in like redefining what healthy means
Mm.
is talking about, let's say, grandma's birthday, and grandma has cake for her birthday. Is it healthier to eat the cake for grandma's birthday? Or is it healthier to not eat the cake for grandma's birthday?
Mm.
Right? And so often we talk about health from such a physical sense of like calories and fat and sugar, and we don't think about the joy
Mhm.
that it brings us, the joy that it brings our family, it brings grandma, the
Yeah.
celebratory aspect of it. And so to be able to allow yourself to have that cake, to enjoy it, to be
Mm.
present in the moment is going to be healthier than not having the cake,
Yeah.
right? So really redefining health from a place of nutrition and fat and calories and full body, full health, really coming from a holistic place.
Yeah. I'm sure. Gotcha.
Yeah.
So when you're seeing these trends around the holidays, is it usually something that is kind of a pattern that a person has dealt with for a while and it just surfaces at the holidays? Or is it maybe like out of the blue? Like, what do you typically see?
I would say it's a mix of both.
Hmm.
I think it's also really a lot of our society, I think, profits off of it, or maybe not our society, but our industries
Yeah.
profit off of it, right? Like, oh, you're not going to be able to resist all this food,
Mhm.
and but don't worry, January 1st is around the corner, right?
Yeah.
And so the diet industry is really profiting off of people having an unhealthy relationship with food,
Mhm.
having those fears. Around the holidays.
Do people typically come to you recognizing that their thoughts are kind of like disordered thoughts or a poor relationship with food? Or does it come through an initial like meeting with you and then unraveling that these times during the holidays are difficult because of that unrelation or that bad relationship with food?
Yeah, great question. I would say it's a mix, like a little bit of both.
Mhm.
Um, I think the holidays bring up a lot for people. And I think so often, sometimes, if the holidays, I'm sure you guys see that a lot with clients of like how much that can bring up for them and
Yes.
how often we use food to cope or
Mhm.
to process or find control
Yep.
when life gets sticky, hard, rocky, um, because it works, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
We can use food emotionally. And that's something that I like to talk to clients about a lot too. Like, who said eating emotionally was bad?
Mhm. Love that.
Eating emotionally can be really, really resourceful
Mhm.
and healthy,
Like
right?
mindfully eating is like
Yeah.
a great mindfulness exercise that you can do.
Yeah. And even like if we're having a rough day and we need to, get pizza with our friends, then we need to get pizza with our friends.
Yes.
And that is a-okay. I think the issue comes up when we're constantly using food, right? When we're only using food, when we don't have other coping skills, other strategies to deal with big emotions
Mm,
that often come up during the holidays, right?
mhm.
Which leads to so much desire of, well, I'll just start that January 1st diet, right?
Yeah.
I can take care of all of this in the new year. Like really things just feel too big, too heavy. How can I shrink myself? How can
Mhm.
I show up smaller, take up less space? And those diets are really susceptible for folks who might be struggling.
I'd really love to dig in like some realistic things that people can do and make changes, but also ways to respond when faced with these like situations during the holidays. So first I kind of want to piggyback off of what you had said when like grandma or aunts and uncles comment on your weight, your body, what you're eating. How can someone respond to that?
Great question. So I guess that depends on their mm, boldness. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I, empowering them to advocate for themselves of like, please don't talk about my body. Please don't talk about what I'm eating. I also recognize that's really easy to say and really hard to do.
Yeah.
I'm all about changing the subject, just
Mm-hmm.
completely whole different direction.
Redirection, yep.
Yeah, whole
Mhm.
new direction. Wow, you're eating a lot of pie.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's delicious. And did you see the football game?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah, just like
right?
something,
Yes.
yeah,
Any
something different. Mm,
And it's okay if it feels a little out of the blue. We're making that boundary there of like, that's not something that I want to talk about or
right.
continue.
The
Right?
awkwardness will speak for itself.
Yes.
Mhm,
Yes.
definitely.
Mm,
How do you recommend someone process that afterwards? Just because I can imagine that that would be very triggering, and probably bring up a lot of shame and attention to something that maybe they were insecure about in the beginning. So how
mm.
can you process that after?
Yeah, with a lot of compassion,
Mm,
maybe some journaling. Something that we offered our clients over the holiday season last year was we had a meditation guide create some body image and food focused meditations for us.
mm,
So they were something that our clients could have in their back pocket
mhm,
of, okay, I'm going to listen to this before
mm.
I go over to whoever's house for the holidays. And then I also have this as a resource when I get home. I am happy to share those with anyone who might be interested. Just reach out.
Yeah.
But maybe some journaling, really coming back to remembering that we're the expert of our bodies.
Mm,
No one else is the expert of our bodies. We make comments typically because we have good intentions.
mhm.
We just have really poor delivery. And maybe just really coming back to that place of I don't need to take this personally. No matter who it is, they don't know my body better than I do. They don't know my needs better than I do.
That's really good. I like that I am the expert of my own body. I feel like that's just such a good mantra to repeatedly say. Like I'm a really big fan of positive affirmations on your way
Mm,
to something just because it can be a really good way to amp yourself up. But I feel like that's just the perfect sentiment to like I am the expert of my own body. So even if someone makes a comment on my weight or what I'm eating, that it doesn't really matter because I'm the expert. Yeah,
yeah,
love that.
yeah.
What about being faced with like a lot of fear around food? How can
Mm,
someone really navigate that during holidays that are fully centered around food?
sure. I think getting support is really important. Like
Mm,
knowing they don't have to do it alone. It's a lot to do it alone. And then prioritizing those basic needs. So, hydrating, having a good breakfast,
mhm,
having a good lunch, not saving calories, not trying to earn the food
mhm,
through exercise, but really just going back to those basic needs. Like, how can I take care of myself by feeding myself adequately, fueling myself in a way that feels supportive
mhm,
so that I can go into this event and feel nourished
mhm.
and not out of control
Yeah.
around food.
Okay. Yeah. And then what could someone do to be more present in the moment versus being so focused on food? If someone is kind of like fearful or just really hyper fixated on what they're putting on their plate, even like food sensitivities have to be so hyper fixated on what they're doing at a holiday dinner. What advice do you have for someone to become more grounded and more in the moment.
Yeah. So remembering that this, yes, there's so much emphasis on the food, and it's about so much more than the food too,
Mm,
right? So coming back to how do I want to feel while I'm eating it?
mm,
How do I want to feel after I'm done eating it? And then what do I need to do or what do I need to eat or in what amounts are going to support those things.
mm,
So maybe looking at what's being provided, what we have there, and taking some of everything that you want and then sitting with it, enjoying it, savoring it, paying attention to the textures, the flavors, the aromas,
mm.
maybe being really curious. Like, I've always really loved this mac and cheese. And what do I love about it this year?
Wow, that's a really
Like,
good one.
really getting
Mhm,
curious of what are the parts of this plate that maybe I've just automatically put these foods on my plate, but what is it about them that I really enjoy? And sometimes what we might realize is maybe we don't enjoy them as much as we
yeah,
thought we did,
mhm,
or maybe feeling discomfort following something isn't worth it.
mm,
Maybe that detaches us from finding that healthier relationship with our body. And
mhm,
maybe it can help us to eat it in a way that maybe isn't coming from a place of like, ooh, I don't know when I'm going to eat this next.
mhm,
But something we talk to clients about is this idea we can always recreate these foods.
mhm.
I think there's this idea of like green bean casserole, right?
Yep.
You only get green bean casserole during the holidays. And it's like, why? Why
Mhm.
couldn't you make green bean casserole on a random day in March?
Yeah.
Right? So, reminding clients and supporting them of this idea of we don't have to eat everything. We we can make it again.
Mhm,
And that could even be taking some things home that maybe you didn't have space for in your
mhm,
stomach, maybe asking someone for a recipe to recreate it.
mhm.
Yeah.
I like that too because I think it shifts the focus from like the food part of it, but also the nostalgic part of it too, and
Mm,
making that so you can become like, wow, I love this so much because it makes me think of the holidays. Wouldn't it be great if I made it another time so I could like
mm,
reflect on that memory, right?
yes.
And I do agree with you that we totally think that when we're eating these foods at the holidays, we're like, this is the only time I'm going to eat it. I have to eat
Hmm.
as much as possible because I have to savor every bite. But if we kind of change that thinking, then you're right. Like we will be able to not encourage ourselves on that and feel like crap afterwards.
Yeah.
And then start to make that other time so we can feel that same joy that that food ultimately does give us, that sense of memory, that nostalgia that it gives us that really we're seeking by eating a ton of it.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Mm,
beautiful.
thank you.
What is the most important thing for people watching this to take away that might be experiencing a little bit of anxiety coming into the upcoming months that are full of food-centered holidays?
I would empower them to remember that they are the expert of their own body. Just really coming back to that,
Mm,
really staying true to those basic needs, feeding themselves adequately, challenging maybe some of their beliefs around food, some ideas maybe within their family systems around food, challenging their relationship with their body, finding clothes that fit them, finding
mm,
things that they feel comfortable in for the holidays, doing a lot of that preparation to
yeah,
support themselves through a really beautiful holiday season that is maybe centered around food, but maybe not completely focused on food.
yeah, yeah. I love
Mm,
that. Very
thanks.
good. Well, thank you so much for like having this conversation, being on here again, because I think this is really useful to everyone as we go into the holidays, because it
Mm,
will be here very, very quickly.
it's coming.
So, good. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.